There's 2, there's 4, there's 6 and 8. Shunting, rolling stock, and hauling freight. Red, green, yellow, orange, purple, brown, blue. They're the really useful crew. That's who. All with different roles to play around Tidmouth sheds and far away. Down Gordon's Hill and around some bends, we got Thomas and his friends. At the Culdee Railway, Mr. Rain has brought exciting news.
Engines, I'm pleased to announce that we'll be having 2 new arrivals on this railway. And when I say new, I mean these engines are unlike anyone's ever seen before.
The engines were delighted.
I bet these engines are like diesels from the future.
He says they're new engines, unlike anyone's ever seen before, Perry.
We'll just have to see later on tonight. Later on tonight, there was a hot crowd at Kirk Mansion. They were all excited to see the new diesel hybrids.
Now, everyone, get yourselves organized.
Wow, it looks amazing.
Oh my goodness, what a crowd!
Just take deep breaths, Glosslyn.
My word, they look so advanced. They look expensive.
Indeed. Look at that compartment that passengers ride on the locomotive.
I think that's called a passenger pod. That night in the sheds, the engines couldn't stop talking about the newcomers, although with them being mentioned as new diesel-electric hybrids, it made Shane Dooney think about another type of electric engine that used to work with them at the Culdee Railway for a short time.
Well, as cool as these engines are, the mention of them being electric has given me concern that their fate would be similar to the rail cars.
Oh, yes. I do recall those rail cars.
Wait, what happened to these rail cars?
Oh, that's right. You mates weren't here when that happened. Well, why don't you tell the other diesels about the rail cars, Shane? Shane mentions rail cars. Shane talks about rail cars to new diesels. After clearing his throat, Shane started to talk about the rail cars to the Hunslet diesels. Built and introduced in 1995, the rail cars, numbers 24 to 26, were sent to work on the Culdee Railway. Things were going well until in 2001, where number 24 had some finicky trouble with the speed control mechanism and was taken out of service. The same thing happened to numbers 24 and 25 2 years later. Eventually, all 3 rail cars were sent back to the mainland in 2003, only to meet their grim fate 7 years later in 2010. Not long after they were cut up, their manufacturer went out of business. Golly, their fate was almost as bad as Godred's.
Precisely. So tomorrow, we will all to make sure our newcomers are safe.
Eric will have ultra supervision. The following day soon arrived, and one of the hybrids, Glosslyn, number 14, was on passenger trial and was going to take them to Devil's Back. 2 of her passengers were actually environmentalists, 1 male and female. These new engines with a reusable fuel source is just genius. A lot better than those steam kettles on skateboards.
Ha! Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Not to mention those diesels poisoning our atmosphere with their exhausting clouds of soot.
How about you suck my air intake?
I would say it to the top of the mountains if I have to. These engines shall be the way of the future.
Well, today will be that chance, ma'am. Better than your last attempt.
Once everyone was on board, the guard blew the whistle and Glosslyn was off. When she arrived at the first station, she was surprised to see that Shane Dooney was there.
Hey, Shane Dooney, what are you doing here?
Don't mind me, Glosslyn. I'm just doing rail maintenance.
After dropping off some passengers, Glosslyn made her way again, only to run into Nathan at the next station.
Hey, Nathan, what are you doing here?
Don't mind me. I was just, examining the platform. Yes. At last, when she got to Devil's Back, she ran into Patrick, who informed her that it was forbidden to go to the summit at a strong gale. Let me tell you, man, back at 64, I was assigned to rescue some mountain climbers. The vicious, stinging, icy gale was an obstacle for me, but I managed to pull through it regardless. I'm afraid Patrick is right, Glosslyn. Come on, let's make our way back to Kirk Mansion.
Say, Culdee, where are the other engines? Are there that many jobs here on the railway?
Well, Milo, perhaps it's time to address the elephant in the room. And Culdee explained about last night's concerns for both him and Glosslyn. Mr. Barain caught in on the conversation and walked on in, expecting to hear more of it. Once the explanation was done about the concerns and rail cars, Mr. Barain let out a deep sigh.
Had I known the manufacturer went out of business after the whale cars got cut up, I should have contacted Sir Topham Hatt to fix them up instead. Like what he did to Derek and his father did to Boko. I know better now.
That evening, all the engines eventually reunited in the sheds, explained the whole ordeal, and made bygones become bygones. Even Glosslyn forgave the engines, although she did admit that she felt a little uneasy with each engine at the stations.
You'll have to excuse her. Glosslyn's an introvert.
An introvert?
Well, basically, she's a bit timid.
Things were going well, until the station master caught a glimpse of someone.
Sorry, ma'am, but the railway's already... Hey, wait a minute. What are you doing? Someone, stop that person!
Oh no.
Egods!
Breaking.
Oh my God!
Heavens above! Shane decided to chase after the vehicle. He grabbed some rolling stock and made chase to the car.
Go for it, Shane!
Luckily, they didn't have to go very far. The car stopped in front of the viaduct with a punctured tire from the middle rail rack. They loaded the car onto the flatbed and made their way back down to Kirk Mansion. Everyone was surprised to see that the crazy driver turned out to be the female environmentalist. Why wouldn't you let me go up to the summit and spread my message out to all? Nobody's gonna hear out of you, ma'am, especially when you're behind bars.
Actually, she'll be going to Wildorf Hospital.
Yes, I'm sorry for not mentioning it earlier, but my friend's mentally unstable. Also, that wasn't the first time she tried to drive up to the summit by car.
Real shame. Eric wishes the best for your friend.
Are there that many surprises here at the Culdee Fell?
Not all the time. It's usually a peaceful railway.
Now the engines were ready to sleep and start a new day. Although Glosslyn and Milo Ernie remained in the sheds because their siblings at the Snowdon Mountain Railway were still awaiting service as well. So until the time comes for numbers 14 and 15 to begin their work on the railway, the Culdee Railway is still being run by our steam engines and Hunslet diesels.